It's so easy to be reactive, so easy to escalate those fights. How productive have any of those exchanges been? And the answer usually is, it's never been productive. So next time you feel activated, next time you feel you want to, respond, I want you to do nothing. How would that change the situation if you just did nothing? Welcome to Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind. I'm your host, Corey Shapiro. I'm here to help you work on your divorce, not in it. Today, we're talking about doing nothing. I used to think that, having the last word, arguing, I thought I was going to, convince people of my position, of what's important to me. And, I got so reactive, and I really did a lot of work on this. And I realized maybe the best case in a lot of situations is just to do nothing. And I know that might be hard to hear because it's activating, but think about this. You get that nasty text. How about you just paused? You just did nothing. You didn't respond. Don't you feel an urge to respond? Let's just stay in that moment. Just stay in that moment. Now, in that moment, there's this compulsion to respond. So what can we do in that moment to get us out of it? Well, why don't we just do it right here, what I want you to do? So you see that text, you're like, you're just mad. You just want to respond. You want to give it to them because they're giving it to you. It just escalates things. So let's let that energy run through us. And why are we doing this? We're doing this for our better selves. We're doing this to lead yourself, your children to that post-divorce life. The goal is not fighting. That's not the goal. It's to achieve your goals. And we've done podcasts on that, and we'll do that, many more podcasts on it, because the whole thing about getting divorced without losing your mind is focusing on your goals and not getting sidetracked. But let's just get back to this activation, this compulsion to respond. Okay, you with me? Just pause. Let's just take a breath. Maybe we can do 3 breaths in, 3 breaths out. Can you just give me 30 seconds? Just try to let that energy go through you. Okay, that's what I want. Continue that breathing. Continue. That's the space I want you to be. If you could just do that, you're in a great space. You're not being reactive. You're being responsive. Now, I don't want you to think I'm some genius over here. I'm a divorce lawyer at my day job, and in my personal life, and before I really figured this out, not all the time, but most of the time, I was reactive. I was just reactive in my personal life recently. I had this destination wedding that my wife, at the time she was my girlfriend, Bridget, in Italy during COVID. And I'm all logical, and I'm like, who's having a destination wedding in Italy during COVID? Who would do that? Because at that time, you may remember that there was a chance you couldn't come back. You had to take, I think, another test. And if you didn't pass that test, then you were there for 2 weeks. It just seems so expensive, so unnecessary, so much stress and anxiety. Why can't you just do the wedding here? Both the bride and the groom were both from New York. And it took me literally going to a few therapy sessions to really realize the point. The point wasn't necessarily debating the logics of if it's reasonable to do a destination wedding during COVID. The point was to support my girlfriend because that was important to her. Just like in divorce, whatever position is stated, if someone wants primary custody or they want to pay you, low amount of child support or maintenance or whatever it is, or you want to, pay a low amount, whatever that is, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just above water. And there's so much going on below the water, the fears, the frustrations, the anger. That's really what I want you to focus on when you're focusing during that time of being responsive and not reactive. So let me give you a 4-step practical tools that you can think about when you're trying to reset, when you're trying to pause. First, stop. This is a red light. This is not a yellow light caution. This is not like hurry up, do that light. This is, you're done. Stop. Okay. Second one is step away. Can you step away? I'm stepping away now. I'm stepping away. You don't need the last word. You don't need it. Okay. You're fighting a much bigger fight than what you think about. And here's the one. Can you invest in peace? Can you invest in peace? Do we have to win this battle? Can we invest in peace? And then finally, let's zoom out. Let's really zoom out to different timescales. It's not just this little text, this little battle. It's a war. And the war is not about what you think it's about. It's not about that position. It's about your interest, moving on to a better place, getting maybe some financial security, maybe getting stability for your children. All right, so if you're listening to this, I really appreciate it because this is hard work. It's so easy to be reactive, so easy to escalate those fights. But let me ask you this, and I ask you a lot of these questions to, potential clients when they tell me how things have gotten to where they have, and it's all basically a big toxic mess. How productive have any of those exchanges been? How productive? And the answer usually is, it's never been productive. So I'm getting you out of this pattern. So next time you feel activated, next time you feel you want to, respond, I want you to do nothing. And my reset question is, how would that change the situation if you just did nothing? Now, I'm not saying forever. Don't quote me. I'm saying doing nothing forever. I just mean in that moment when you're activated and you have compulsion, and it's not necessarily something that's an emergency situation, doesn't need an immediate response, could do better. Let me tell you also another thing. Sometimes, maybe more, you'll see this in settlement. They give you false deadlines, especially when you're divorcing a bully. They give you false deadlines. They're like, oh, if you don't respond by like Friday, we'll do X, whatever that X is. And it just happened to me recently where this attorney was bullying me around. And they said, if you don't do, X by Friday, we're going to reach out to the court. Like that scares me. And, when you present information to the court through your attorney, that has to be done artfully. Talking to your attorney, maybe even talking to the other side, not so artfully, could be, but really important when you're talking to the court, even through emails to the court, needs to be done all about persuasion. Because you're dealing with someone who's supposed to be fair and equitable. The other side's not fair and equitable. They're going to be advocating, unless you're in one of those collaborative divorce situations where everyone's working together as a team. If you're in that situation, great. But most times it's adversarial, which is a whole nother podcast about how bad that is for most people. But when you reach out to the court, think of it like going to the emergency room, and they're only going to deal with issues that they think are important. They're going to triage. So they reached out to the court on Friday. I did my response. And then weeks later, we haven't heard from the court. You know why? Because they don't care. They're doing nothing too. So take the lead from the court. Learn sometimes the best approach is to do nothing, not forever, but just for now. We're playing the long game. That's what we're doing here. That's my book's about, getting divorced without losing your mind. That's what this podcast's about. And that's what I do in my practice. I help you play the long game. I help you move forward to that better life. And it starts here. So do nothing. I'll end this really quickly because I'm not going to do much. This is Corey Shapiro, Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind.
Thank you for tuning in to the Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind podcast. We would love to hear your feedback. Send Corey an email to feedback@gettingdivorced.org. And if you've read his book, please consider leaving an Amazon review. This podcast offers general information only. It cannot replace legal advice. If you need tailored advice, contact an attorney licensed to practice in your area.